This is the Beyond the Prophy podcast, the podcast that empowers you and inspires you to seek career excellence while pursuing your passion. And I'm your host, Jasmine Haley. Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Prophy. I am excited to introduce you to this guest. This guest is a friend of mine and an entrepreneur that has owned multiple businesses. And she's just a phenomenal dental hygienist who has definitely made a positive impact in my life. And her name is Debora Carrier. As I re-listened to this episode and really reflected on some of the things that Debora shared in her personal journey, what was clear was that she had a very clear vision and she wasn't afraid to ask questions. And, I think that's really, really important when it comes to your career, because once you've made the decision to focus on whatever it may be, whatever your passion may be, you're going to get many people within your journey that come from the left and then come from the right, and they may tell you that's not a great idea, or they may not share your vision. They may have limitations that they're putting on you. They're putting their limitations on you. And what I'm referencing is not individuals who have your best interest in heart, see you going in the wrong direction, and are there to steer you and tell you the truth and help you honestly reflect on the fact that what you're doing at this time is harmful to yourself. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the many naysayers, or those negative people that come along your journey, which you will encounter, who tell you you're not enough, who tell you you're not adequate, who don't share in your vision. And although Debora didn't particularly share that in this episode, it made me think of that, because when you have a clear vision of what it is, or what path you want to take, or what your why is, if you have a clear understanding of what your why is, regardless of any input that you receive along the way, you'll be laser focused on that. So it won't deviate you towards a course that's not leading you towards what your mission is, or what you have set as your why. And it was very clear for Debora what her mission currently is. And I also appreciated the fact that she even discussed utilizing her experience as a parent and being involved in her son's life with the PTA to shape what she's doing now. And I think for most young people like myself in our early 30s who are raising a family, we kind of need to hear from our colleagues who have already done it and who have shown that, hey, it's okay to spend that extra time with your kids and probably seek ways to give back in your kids' school, and still be able to gather the skills necessary to one day, when you return back, be able to make the impact that you want to. And so that was a great thing to hear. And although I have not made that decision, I did take off a couple of years earlier on in my children's life. I've continued to go on and go on with education. There are many hygienists that have decided to put that on hold. And that's why I love hearing Debora's story and her willingness to share that those different experiences led to her gaining these tools. And then when she was ready to reach out and start entrepreneurship and doing more in dentistry, she had a very clear vision. And then she wasn't afraid to ask people questions and to share that vision. Some individuals are afraid to ask and afraid to tell individuals because they're afraid of their information being taken from them. And what I appreciated about Debora is she made it very clear. It's that fear is normal, but there's also the realistic part of it, of the likelihood of what you're doing being stolen from you. Just keep moving, keep focused on what that vision is, keep moving forward, ask the questions that need to be asked, because you don't know who you may meet in your journey that could possibly provide you some pointers that could help excel your vision and what your mission is. So Debora is a very caring and loving mentor and to many, and she's a huge support. And within all that support, she has a tremendous amount of success with CPR Sisters and with Twice as Nice uniforms. And what I appreciated with her is that you can see that she's a holistic woman, not in a sense of, we're not talking about alternative medicine, but the fact that her family is included with everything that she's doing in her journey. Her family names are in her scrub line. Her CPR sisters, her whole family is involved with that CPR business. She takes a collective approach in her growth, whether it's growing Twice as Nice uniforms, whether that is growing her CPR sisters, whether that is reaching out and letting the younger generation of dental hygienists like myself and holding their hand and giving them the encouragement they need to keep pushing forward. Debora is one of a kind, one of the most genuine people that I've met in this industry, and I'm very glad to introduce you to her and allow you the opportunity to get to know her, to hear her amazing career, and I know there's no doubt that you'll be empowered by this episode. So do me a favor and just subscribe to this podcast if you can, if you feel moved to. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share it. Make sure to leave a review. The more reviews that I've received from these episodes, the more that it could be linked to someone that could possibly benefit from the content that's being shared. The whole purpose of this is to get that information out and to start helping those individuals who feel stuck in their career and who want to be empowered and inspired in their clinical career, or perhaps working on things outside of clinical dental hygiene. Make sure you check out our website at beyondtheprophy.com, and I can't wait for you to see the 2018 lineup of our CEs. And Debora was actually at one of the CEs this August, and I'm hoping that she can join in for future ones because her product is amazing. It's the only scrub line that I wear and endorse, and I'm very happy to know this amazing woman. So I hope you enjoy the episode, and thanks for tuning in. Welcome to the Beyond the Prophy podcast. I feel like I say this every single time I'm interviewing someone, how excited I am. That's because we have such amazing people in our profession, but I am really, really, really excited to interview our guest today. Today we're going to have a brief conversation on career excellence with the Debora Carrier from Twice as Nice uniform. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jasmine. I'm excited to be here.
Oh man, I can't believe I'm getting a little nervous. Although I've talked to you so many times and have been around you. And I'm just really happy that you're here, and I want to talk a little bit about your professional journey, but also talk about the amazing product that you have that I have actually purchased and I have used. So let's get to know you a little bit at first, if that's okay.
Sure.
So how did you get into dental hygiene?
Well, it was just kind of, in high school, I knew I wanted to do something in the healthcare industry. I think like a lot of us did. So I looked at the nursing thing and I looked at dental hygiene, and I'd always loved going to the dentist. Of course, I've never had a cavity, so that helps. But I just did a lot of exploring and checking it out, and decided to go for it. The interesting thing is that I didn't decide to do this until probably halfway through my junior year, and I went to my high school guidance counselor, and he told me I would never get into hygiene school.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's all he had to tell me, because then I was like, oh yeah, let me show you how this works. So so I not only did I get into hygiene school, but I got into hygiene school at the age of 17, which is very young to get into school. And so I was finished with my associate's degree, but I was only 19 when I got out of hygiene school. But the minute I got there, I knew that that's where I needed to be. We all know how hard hygiene school was, but I loved it, and that just took off from there.
That is awesome. And one thing I find that is very unique about you in particular is the fact that you've been with the same office for a really long time.
Right, for 28 years.
Yeah, wow. That's great, though.
You find a good fit. And the other thing is, like we get so attached to our patients, and it's really awesome now, because I have patients that I saw when they were just, first coming at age 4 or 5, and they're bringing their kids in now.
That is crazy.
Cool.
That's so cool. But I mean, when you say how long you've been in dentistry, it just seems unreal. Because you are so beautiful, and I'm sure you hear this a lot, but I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I want to be her when I grow up, when my kids are grown.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been in dentistry 37 years. Been a hygienist that whole time, either part-time, full-time, temporary, all different kind of combinations. But I just owe the way I look to my mom and my grandmother. I don't do anything special, but my mother looks amazing, and so did my grandmother. So it's just luck.
So, with your particular career, you've done clinical, you're an entrepreneur. So what led you, or well, I guess the best way to ask this question is, like, how have you kept your career satisfaction, like your passion that you still have now? Like, what have you done in order to stay in dental hygiene for 37 years?
That's a really good question. In the very beginning, obviously, I just attacked it, full force. I had a full-time job and a part-time job right out of college, and I'm a worker bee, so that was wonderful for me, and I did that for many years, probably up until the time I had my son Jordan. It's his birthday today. He's 29. Happy birthday, Jordan.
Hey, Jordan.
So then, I'd been in it long enough at that point that, it was starting to take its toll on my body a little bit. I was getting a little restless. It was like, what else can I do? I mean, I'd worked in a group practice in Chicago, where I went to hygiene school, and then I moved to Atlanta. And I had to wait to take my boards there. So I worked as an office manager for a short time in a group practice, and then I started doing hygiene there, and then moved to another office. So I was there for quite some time. But then after Jordan was born, I went back to my modeling career, which had started in dental hygiene school, oddly enough, and started doing a little bit of that again. And so I thought that I wanted to do hygiene on a temporary basis, or maybe not at all, and go back to my modeling career and look at a few other options. But the minute I started to walk away from hygiene, I couldn't do it. I had to get back. So at that point, I just started thinking, well, what else can I do? I'll do this part-time. And I was a very active mom as far as, volunteering in Boy Scouts and at school things and the PTA. I mean, I was on every committee that you could possibly think of. And I wanted to really mention that to your audience, especially Jasmine, because even though I wasn't out there pursuing a career where I was, making more money besides the hygiene thing with doing all the volunteer stuff at school, what happened that I see now looking back on it is that really groomed me for what I'm doing now, because especially with the PTA stuff, I mean, that's like running a corporation. I learned so much through that. I was the treasurer for a while and took on all their other responsibility roles. So even though I didn't, quote, have a real job, I mean, that was really grooming me to, step out and do what I'm doing now. Yeah. So at that point in my life, I was doing hygiene part-time. And my husband traveled all the time. So, I needed to be home, for Jordan for that. And then one day I just woke up and I said, I want to be a CPR instructor. And I had always enjoyed when they came to our office to recertify us. So I started researching that. I mentioned it to my sister. She said she wanted to do it too. So we went and got certified to be CPR instructors, immediately connected with 2 mothers who had lost their children to sudden cardiac arrest. And when I started this, I thought, okay, I'm going to do this to go into dental offices and recertify them. Well, for the first 10 years that we had our CPR company, we never went in a dental office. What happened was I connected with these mothers and learned so much about how there is a lot of, I don't know what the percentage is, but there's a big percentage of children who die from sudden cardiac arrest. And so one of the mothers really got on the bandwagon to get legislation passed in the state of Georgia, where I live, to get defibrillators in all the schools and where children play. So we started down that road. We were also part of a grant from the American Heart Association for $1 million, which we were able to, for our first couple of years, just go out literally and train everybody in the Atlanta area because we had that available to us. So that kind of just took on a life of its own, and obviously very rewarding. I mean, the people you meet and the stories you hear, and to be able to help these mothers that have gone through something that I can't even imagine going through, but they turned it into something fantastic. So I did that. I still do that. I still have that company. It's the CPR Sisters. We've morphed into the CPR family now because we are also instructor trainers, my sister Darla and I, and we've trained all our children to be CPR instructors also. So we're able to cover a lot of classes that way.
Get out of here.
I'm
like, I wish you could see me. My mouth is gaping open right now.
Well, it's really been a fun journey, and I forget half the stuff I've done. My sisters always have to remind me because I'm just always going full speed ahead. So in there too, we were winning all kinds of awards with PTA. I started a very cool program at my son's school. I noticed when I was there volunteering that the kids were getting bored at lunchtime and they were getting in trouble in the cafeteria. And there were days where Jordan would come home and say that he didn't get recess that day because they had to do this, that, or the other. So I started a program called the Out to Lunch Bunch, where the kids were, after they were finished eating, they were allowed to come out on the playground and play. So we got volunteers to man the playground and raised money to get a lot of the play equipment and that type of stuff. And the response from the teachers was amazing, that these kids are like different kids when they come back in the afternoon after lunch, now that they can go out and release that energy. So there were all those things like that I didn't realize were grooming me to, start a business and be able to work with people and how to handle people and scheduling and finances and all that type of stuff.
Oh, I love hearing that. Actually, they have something at my daughter's school called Lunch Bunch.
Oh, good.
That they earn. They have to earn it by doing whatever deeds that they have outlined for them. But anywho, I volunteer at my daughter's school. This last year I haven't done it as much, but I would go there frequently, and it does, just seeing what the PTA has done. I haven't taken any position because at that time when they were looking for positions, I was already involved with the Hygiene Association. So I love hearing that, and hearing what being involved in that has been very satisfying to me. And having that ability to be able to do that was very important to me. But it's also also good to hear how there can be situations where you're volunteering your time and you're gaining skills that you can use professionally.
Exactly. It really made me think about it when we were at your event in Baltimore a couple of weeks ago. It feels like a year ago, but I guess it was just a couple of weeks. And that one mom said that. She said, I've been thinking about going back to school. I want to do something outside the operatory, but I get the mommy guilt. And that's when I thought, yeah, I totally remember that time in my life. And then that filled that gap for me, you know, where I could still be with Jordan, but you know, I wasn't going back to school, but in a way I was getting an education that I would never have gotten by, you know, going back to school. So
absolutely. That mommy guilt is something, I tell you. It is something.
Careful.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you started CPR Sisters. I love that you did something with your family, and you've created like a legacy, because now your children are involved also. So you've had an entrepreneurial spirit anyway.
Right.
But then what led you to go to starting a scrub line?
All right. So yeah, I kind of just like fell into that one. If you had asked me 5 years ago what I'd be doing now, I would not have said this. But so it was 3.5 years ago, I guess now. And the office that I've worked in for 28 years, I was always freezing, and my boss, you know, kept the temperature at like 50, you know, I'm exaggerating, but you know, it was always freezing in there, and he was sweating. I'm, you know, shivering. And so I would go to work like a lot of dental offices, having that thermostat war, like every office has that thermostat war. And so I would go to work bundled up. You know, I would wear long underwear or long sleeve t-shirt and, you know, tights, whatever, under my uniform just to keep warm. And one day at lunch, I'm looking at myself and I'm like, I'm so uncomfortable. And then there were things like I didn't even go to the bathroom all day long because number one, we're busy and we just don't do it. And number two, it was just taking those layers off. You know, it was just a pain. And I was thinking, why do I do this? Why have I done this for all these years? There's got to be a solution to this. So I started thinking about it and I thought, well, I know there's technology in fabric. Let me just start dabbling in this and see what I can do. Now, I have no background whatsoever in fabric or production of uniforms, nothing. I mean, I had no idea. But I just started down that path. And from the day I started down that path, it was crazy how many things just fell like literally out of the sky that I got halfway down that path. And I was like, well, this is what I'm meant to do. I'll give you a couple of examples. Well, first of all, I went out and had a prototype made. And looking at it now, it's pretty funny. It's very archaic. But and I just started searching all over the Southeast to find fabric manufacturers. And I just asked everybody questions, just nonstop. So I was meeting a girlfriend for dinner one night, and she was running late. She called me and said she's going to be late. So I went over to the bar to get a glass of wine. And I reached over the bar to get my glass of wine, and I accidentally bumped this gentleman who was sitting at the bar. He was waiting for his wife. And I don't normally tell my entire life story to some stranger in a bar, but I did. And I remember standing there and thinking, Deborah, what are you doing? But by the time my girlfriend got there, the gentleman I was talking to, his name is Lee, and he said, well, I really like your idea with the uniforms. He said, I'm involved with a company or with the Atlanta Technology Angels, and we support people who, you know, do stuff like this. And I was like, oh, okay. And he was like, so here's my card. You know, if you're interested, give me a call. So I took the card, I checked him out, waited a few days, and I called him back. And he was like, yeah, I'm connected to everybody in Atlanta who would invest in, you know, an idea like yours. So if you're interested, why don't you come meet me, blah, blah, blah. So I met him the first day. And he basically gave me a whole crash course on how to raise money, you know, what do you need, where do you go from here? And when I left there that day, he said, okay, you're going to need about $500,000 to get this off the ground. And I'm thinking, oh, yeah, right. How's this work? And he said, but do you think between now and next week, you could raise $50,000 between your friends and family? And I said, I have absolutely no idea, but sure, I'll give it a shot. So I left there. My sister called me for something unrelated, asked me what I was doing. I told her. And she texted me back a half an hour later, give me a call. I called her. She said, I'm handing the phone to somebody. She handed the phone to her friend. Her friend said, I'm good for the 50 grand, and I'm probably good for another huge investment if this goes where I think it's going.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yes. So I was like, okay. So then it started to get real. I was like, okay, now what do I do? So off I went to New York to look at fabrics and all that kind of stuff. And just by talking to everybody, I just got connected from one person to the next person, the next person. It got to the point where my sisters would call me on a daily basis and say, so what's the miracle that happened today? And and a lot of them came from my patients. I'd wake up in the morning and think, I need to find a pattern maker today. And by the end of the day, I would have a pattern maker. And it was weird. So like I said, so I got halfway down that road and I'm like, okay, Debora, you were meant to do this. So backing up a little bit, once I found the technology for the hot and cold, to solve that issue really early on. That was actually the easiest part of the whole thing. And so then I had to learn how to get a patent. So I went and did that. I got a patent attorney and patented the idea. And then at that point, I thought, okay, well, I'm going into the uniform business. So at this point, I'm just going to change everything that I don't like about uniforms. The style, the fit, the fabric, everything. And so then again, I headed off to New York, worked with a production person. It was the same crazy kind of thing with my factory. I really had the dream of manufacturing in the US, but everybody told me it was impossible. And so the person that I had contacted about helping me with my production, she said, well, there's not a factory around here who's going to touch you. But she said, I'm going to take you to 2 or 3 just for the experience of talking to them so you can learn how this works. So she did. And the second one that I went into, we were in there for over an hour. And at the end of the hour, they said, well, we think we're crazy also, but we want to take you on. We really like what's happening. And they're still my factory today, and they're like family to me.
Wow.
So yeah, it just goes on and on and on and on. So so I literally just took a leap of faith. I had no idea what I was doing. I had a vision in my head of, I want to solve the problem of the hot and the cold issue in the dental office. I want to make uniforms more stylish and comfortable for healthcare workers, because I've been there, done that. I'm one of you guys. I know the issues that we deal with on a daily basis. I know how hard our jobs are. And if I can make you more comfortable and feel better about yourself on a daily basis, that's what I want. So I just literally jumped into the deep end of the pool and had no idea how I was going to make this work. And here I am.
Wow. Oh my goodness. First of all, I just want to say thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
I love it. It just gives me hope too. Because I feel like when I started Beyond the Prophy, it was just like, oh, well, I want to do X, Y, and Z, but I'm not too sure how it's going to come about. And you kind of just have to, you take it day by day, but it's okay to really not be sure. You have a vision of where you would like to be, but you're just not too sure how you're going to get there. So I wrote down some takeaways from just your example that you shared. The first thing is ask questions.
Absolutely.
And you said that you asked a lot of people, which I think is very, very important. Some people are afraid to. Some people are afraid to ask because they feel like, oh, someone's going to take my idea. I've heard that before.
Yeah. And I was afraid of that in the beginning, but then after talking with enough people, they were like, no, you've already done the homework. Just think of what they would have to do to get where you are right now. Don't worry about it. Just And if you have an idea that can be stolen, the minute you file for a patent, you're protected at that point, because you go on record of that was your idea at that day. So it doesn't have to, you don't have to already have your patent. You just have to started the process, and then you're protected.
Awesome. That is so good to know. That is so good to know. The second takeaway, start imperfectly.
Yep.
So you said that your prototype.
Oh my God, it is hilarious. I was thinking the other day about taking a picture of it, because it's just like, it's just like a dinosaur. I mean, it's like a snowsuit or something. I don't even know.
Oh man, that makes me laugh. Okay, the third takeaway I have from listening to that story is networking, and never rule out the bar.
Yep. Well, yeah, that's a good one. I didn't think about that, but yes, you're right. That has gotten me so incredibly far. And I have to add, the dental world, everyone has been so crazy supportive that it's just been amazing. And I try to do the same thing now I try to mentor, hygienists. So if any of you have anything, call me. It's about us all banding together, and we're all going through this journey together, and whoever can help everybody. And that's the biggest thing I've learned, is by asking questions and talking and networking to everybody. You never know who's going to know something or somebody that they're going to connect you with. So
absolutely.
And there's never a stupid question. I used to be one of those people who never ask a question. And now that's all I do is ask questions, because I've learned, how far that'll get you in life.
Yep. It was the conversation I had with Elijah in February of 2016. And then I sat down with my friend Christy. But it was his conversation that I had, just hearing his story.
Yeah.
It wasn't where I was getting step by step of what to do. Sometimes you need to hear, which is why I love podcasting. Sometimes you need to hear someone else's story to be inspired.
Exactly.
And we were at a bar. We were at a bar. Now that you mention that, we were actually at a bar. So I love that. I love that you share that. Okay. You never know who you're sitting next to. You never know who knows who. Even when I met Claire Jung from Student RDH, at RDH Under One Roof, I just knew that what she was offering was amazing, and I'm just so happy that I saw her at the conference and was connected with her. I value her friendship. So those are instances where you never know, and you just have to be open. You really have to be open.
Yeah. Speaking of Claire, I didn't know Claire, and I think Sarah Thiel connected me with her, and we ended up sharing a booth at the Hinman, and I invited her to come stay at my house, and I had never met her, knew nothing about her. And now we're like the best of friends, and, we stayed up all night talking about, everything, and she's a very interesting person. But again, that was just like, I was like, okay, I don't know you, but just come on, I know you're in the dental world, and I know you're a good person, and another great friendship, came from.
Absolutely. I love her. I really do. All right. Here's my last one, is setting your intention. So you set your intention in your journey. You knew somewhat of what was important to you, and so you went with that.
Right.
Fearlessly, very courageously. You went with that. Sometimes you can't think, because it's something you'll think yourself out of it.
Exactly. Yep. You can't. You just have to go. And I mean, my path has changed. You think point A to point B, but you're going to go so many places in between those 2 points. I've gone down this road, that road, and some roads they don't go anywhere, and you turn around and you go back. It hasn't all just been fun and games. I mean, there's, number one, a ton of hard work, but number two, you just have to be open for, I guess that wasn't the best idea. Let's regroup and let's go here. And I've just always been a very optimistic person, and that's what you got to do. It's just keep plowing forward. And, 10 years from now, I may be in a completely different business, but, that's okay.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I wonder, I really would love to see 5 years from now what I'll be doing.
Right.
It'll be
Yeah.
very interesting.
Right. Like
I'm
I told.
open to whatever.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed at all that I would be doing this right now. And I'm also, I'm starting to speak and do fashion shows and get up in front of tons of people. And I almost didn't go to hygiene school because I hadn't found out I had to take a speech class, and I was terrified to talk to people. And now look, people can't shut me up. So.
Well, I'm happy that you stuck it through with Twice as Nice because so I'll give you a little bit of history. I am curvy, and I have been for quite some time, especially after having children. And I could never find a pair of scrubs that worked with my body shape. So I'm 5'5", but my legs are extremely long. So I'm average height, but my legs are long. So every pair of pants I would get, they would be high water pants on me. I also have very long arms, and so the lab coats that I would wear, I would stem my arm out, and then all of my wrists would be out. And so I would always wear or get the disposable gowns. I prefer to have everything completely covered. And first I started with disposable, then I bought a white jacket, it looked scary. It wasn't fashionable. It was what I used in hygiene school. And I remember a doctor asking me, could you wear something else? And I wouldn't, because I just wanted to be completely covered. But it wasn't until I had the Twice as Nice, oh my gosh, I forgot the name of the jacket, the design. The Amy design. And not until I had that did I feel like I had full coverage. I was also fashionable. Like, I didn't look like I was wearing a bed sheet. And I felt comfortable. I have my neck covered. I have my wrist. You can clasp the jacket close to your wrist. It's OSHA compliant. When my arms are extended out all the way on each side, they are not short. My pants don't rise up, and I get compliments all the time. And the scrubs that I have are black. I don't temp that often, but I do wear them when I'm teaching. And I get compliments all the time. I've washed them 1,000,000 times, and it's still the same color that it was when I purchased them. So I'm happy that you stuck with it, because I can't wear anything else. So
thank you, Jasmine. That really warms my heart, because those are all the points. I wanted to make things that fit right and felt good and didn't fade and shrink and last a long time. And there's not a uniform company that thinks about the needs in dentistry. And that was something that I didn't think about when I entered this, but as I learned more and more about the industry, and it's just, it's a numbers thing, but most of them think about the hospital worker, and they don't think at all about dentistry. And obviously, with all my years of experience in dentistry, I knew exactly what we needed and what was missing. And I have a whole bunch more ideas to make it even more cookie cutter for the dental world. So
I can't wait. All right, I have two more questions, and that will be it. So my question to you is, what would you say to a hygienist who isn't happy in her career, doesn't really know what to do, and isn't unsure of what's the first step?
Okay, that's a toughie. I mean, my immediate response, but you hear this all the time, is find your why. But finding your why is not always easy. Sometimes you just have to let go and let the why find you. But I think that if you're unhappy in your career, you need to just take tiny steps at first and think about, why am I not happy here? It could be something just as easy as, I just need to talk to my boss. Maybe you love dental hygiene and you don't ever want to do anything differently, but you got to think about that. Or it could be something that's happening outside of work in your personal life, or you've got the mommy guilt, and think about that. You have to be a really fulfilled person in general, for all this stuff to happen. And that's a really hard thing to do, especially when you're younger and you've got young kids, and because you don't think about yourself. And we definitely don't think about ourselves as healthcare workers. We always put ourselves last. But that's the first thing that I would do. And I would just keep an open mind. I love all these social media, Facebook groups and stuff we have, because there's so many people doing so many different things that could pique, your interest in any of those things. And if any of those feel right to you, then reach out to somebody that's connected in that world, or find somebody that is, and explore it. And then the doors will open when they're supposed to open.
Oh, Debora. Just warm my heart. I love it. This is such a good episode. Okay, here's the last question. What is the best career advice you've been given?
Oh my gosh. As far as dental hygiene?
Just anything. Just in general.
Okay. Well, the best one as far as a career in dental hygiene was take care of your body and talk to your doctor. And in general, you have to love what you do. And if you don't love what you do, then you're going to be miserable. And I've had times in my life where it was not fun and I felt stuck. But you just keep plowing along and, reach out there and it'll happen.
I just want to hug you right now.
Yeah,
but this is
staring at my screen. It's not you.
Oh my goodness. I love the pearls that you dropped so far. So where can people find you? Where can they find Twice as Nice uniforms?
I have a website, so that's twiceasniceuniforms.com. You can find that there. There's an 800 number there. There's an email. But I'm all over Facebook. Just message me. I'll be glad to talk to anybody. In fact, this afternoon I have 2 calls with some young hygienists that I've never met before. They found me on Facebook. They're looking to start something and they just wanted some advice. They don't know what to do. So, just reach out to me. I'm here. So many people have helped me along the way. And I remember feeling like bad that they were taking all this time and energy to help me, but then they said, no, when you get to where you can help other people, you just pay it forward, and that's how it works. And so that's what's happening.
Let me tell you, listeners, as Debora's talking, she is the epitome of that, and I can attest to that. She has helped me in more ways than she realized, and I thank you so much for being on the show, Deb, and just being just an awesome light in dentistry. We need more like you. We really do.
That's very sweet. I got the chills. Thank you, Jasmine.
All right. So thanks again, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.